Builders love to see their guitars being played, and not just for monetary reasons. There's a strong bond of loyalty between musicians and luthiers. Being on a first-name basis with the person who built your guitar adds to the experience.
And we've had people, come from as far as ways as Germany, just specifically to pick up their guitar for them. And we've had people to, come from California or this place and that place so that they can personally place the order. I think, it's that type of personal involvement in what we're doing that is appealing to a lot of people and makes the business for us very enjoyable.
This kind of all ties back to the individual wood grains and everything else. This is mine, this is unique, there's not another one like it, and it's got its own sound. Now, there's some other ones out there that are very similar, but this is mine, and I've got the only one.
For the guitar to produce sound, the top needs to vibrate and literally pump air out the sound hole, and the more the top vibrates, in general, the more projective and louder and better and richer the sound. It's a difficult thing to counteract the more than 100 pounds of tension that's exerted on the top. And in order to do that, you have to make some compromises and you have to put braces in. The thing about Martin is that Martin invented a system of bracing called the X-brace, which yields the most amount of strength for the least amount of wood. And the X-brace was so successful that virtually every acoustic guitar manufacturer in the world uses it.
C.F. Martin can rightly be called the father of the American acoustic guitar. Martin pioneered design changes that made the guitar a uniquely American instrument.
These, in a sense, are the true American guitars, the first real, honest-to-goodness American guitars that are distinctly different structurally and ornamentally from any European instruments that preceded them, or even from European instruments that followed them.
The 1800s was the era of the parlor guitar. The guitar wasn't taken seriously as a professional performance instrument. There were mail-order guitars sold through the Sears catalog, and when you look through those catalogs, it's charming and delightful because you see styles of guitars and ornamentation on guitars which are common to a lot of the makers of the 1800s. Martin and Washburn and Bruno and any number of tiny independent makers whose names unfortunately didn't always carry through to the 20th century were on the market at that time.
Orville Gibson was an eccentric wood carver and turn-of-the-century visionary. Taking inspiration from violin design, Orville carved his instruments instead of simply using flat boards, and so evolved the second American guitar.
He was the first person that we think of who's known as the father of the archtop or carved-top guitar. After his company was formed around 1902, he continued as essentially a consultant and a designer and engineer for them, but his influence on the company began to wane shortly after that.
I think Orville would not have gone on to really be a famous maker had not the Gibson Company evolved his designs. He sold his patent in 1902 to a group of Kalamazoo investors who set up the Gibson Company. He was a consultant and the man who sold the patent.
In the early 20s, Lloyd Lohr started working for Gibson, and he brought the F-holes to the mandolin family, which enhanced the whole sound.
What was significant about the L5 guitar was that it was the first production carved-top guitar with the F-shaped sound holes like you find on a violin top, as opposed to the oval or round hole that had been used before. This guitar very quickly became accepted as an alternative, one, to flat-top guitars, or these oval hole carved top guitars for use in orchestras. And also that guitar came into being about the time that, of course, there was a considerable interest in the mandolin orchestras. So that guitar became kind of an accompaniment or a rhythm part of those orchestras. And when the guitar was beginning to move into the big bands, at that point and later on, eventually displacing the banjo and other types of stringed instruments as a rhythm instrument, it was found that the carved top F-hole guitar, of which the Gibson L5 was essentially the first, could project an unamplified tone and volume over the sound of the horns and all the percussion in these big bands.
The player never really hears what he's doing. He never hears what the voice of the instrument is. The ideal location to listen to an archtop is maybe 6 or 8 feet in front of it. But when you're playing it, you're hearing and feeling the instrument, but not like the listener is standing out front. It's made and designed to project, that's why. Unlike the old round hole flat top, which the player hears right away.
Today, archtops are played as lead voices, but originally they were rhythm instruments, made to project their sound across a room. These elegant instruments have always taken longer to build than other guitars because of the tedious process of carving away the curve of the top and back. The names D'Angelico, Stromberg, Gibson, and Lohr are spoken in reverent tones, while today's archtop builders continue to refine the standard.
See, that pitch will drop as I remove wood. It will drop and drop and drop until it's where I think it should be. Then I'll cut the F-holes. It'll drop quite a bit then. I'll then glue on the braces. The pitch will then raise back up again. Then I'll shave the braces and the pitch will drop again. At that point, it's pretty much where it should be. You're fine-tuning it at that point. It's going up and down until finally it's where it should be. Not necessarily tuned to a specific pitch. It's whatever pitch is good for that particular board.
John Dopiera imagined a guitar that didn't use wood to produce sound. Dopiera and his brothers began making guitars with metal resonator cones in the mid-1920s. They were the loudest thing around before electric guitars. The Dopiera company name, Dobro, has become the common name for resonator guitars.
In the early 1920s, the guitars were still fairly small-bodied, very balanced sounding, 12-fret neck, wide fingerboard, flat fingerboard. People didn't seem to mind that. They liked the fact that they had steel strings.
Virtually all guitars made before 1900 used gut strings. But after the turn of the century, builders such as Gibson and the Larson brothers of Chicago were building guitars with steel strings, which make the guitar louder. In the late 1920s, Martin received an order for a custom guitar, one with a long, slender neck. The resulting guitar had a profound effect on flat-top acoustic design.
They took the 12-fret triple-O-sized Martin guitar and squared off the shoulders at the top and attached the neck at the 14th fret.
This was a major achievement in guitar making. It changed the way people could use the instrument and enabled the guitar to be used in a much wider sense.